Now, there's another question. Is the soul and the light same or different? क्या रूह और नूर एक है या अलग अलग? रूह और नूर. Soul is in everything. But the soul, which is an Imam, is called Ruhul Quddus, Holy Spirit. And we also know that Imam is Noor. So in other words, that soul is the Noor. The Noor is the soul. So what are we saying? The soul and the light is same. So what is that light? The light of knowledge, the light of wisdom, light of righteousness, light of guidance. All this is Noor. So soul is also Noor. And the biggest example we see is in Imam. When we see Imam in physical ways, he is just like us, a human. But his soul is nothing like us. His soul, which is Ruhul Quddus, is full of light, full of Noor. And then we also need to understand these two terms, precursor, sabiq, and successor, lahiq. When Prophet Muhammad was the light at the time of that era, he was the prophet. After him, the light was given to Maula Ali. And during the time of Imamat, we say that Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah, may our souls be sacrificed to this Imam, when he gave the Amr to Nur Maulana Shah Karimul Sani Hazri Imam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Hazri Imam became the successor Imam. So the light was given to Lahiq Imam, which is the successor of the Sabiq Imam. So Sabiq and Lahiq. The light is transferred, the Noor is transferred through Amr. So Sabiq and Lahiq. Then when we said everything has soul, so can we say, does Quran has a soul? Our faith, our Iman, does that have soul? Even Islam as a religion, does that have soul? And the answer is given actually in Quran itself. Chapter 42, verse 52. And it says, and thus we have revealed to you an inspiration of our command. You did not know what is the book or faith. We have made it a light by which we guide whom we will of our servants. And indeed you guide to a straight path. So those who like to read transliteration, I've tried to bold these words so you can highlight in Quran the whole verse and underline these words. This is what we are focusing on. Allah says, let me read the Urdu translation too. और इसी तरह हमने आपकी तरफ अपने हुक्म से रूह को उतारा है. आप इससे पहले ये भी नहीं जानते थे कि किताब और ईमान क्या चीज़ है, लेकिन हमने इसे नूर बनाया. इसके ज़रिए से अपने बंदों में से जिसे चाहते हैं हिदायत देते हैं. बेशक आप राह रास्त की रहनुमाई कर रहे हैं. Allah says in Quran, we reveal to you an inspiration. Inspiration, if you were to read this Arabic word, the transliteration, wahi. Wahi, Allah inspired him through wahi. Inspiration by his command. Prophet did not know what is the book. We do not know what is the book, what is the faith, but we have made it a light by which we guide whom we will of our servants. Whoever Allah wants to guide, Allah guides them. But who are those who Allah guides? His servants. Those who are His bandas, His gulaman. हर एक को नहीं गाइड करता है, जो उसकी गुलामी करते हैं उसको गाइड करता है. So we have to remember the word servants mean those who serve. And who would serve? Those who are farman bardar. So without farman bardari, there is no way that He would will for him to learn, for them to learn. So to serve the Imam of the time is the requirement, the criteria. Then only one can get to that light which he gives, through which he guides. And indeed, you guide to a straight path. Now, straight path. Who is the straight path? Who is the way? Imam is the way. Imam is the straight path. So, where is the guidance going? To the Imam. So, the Imam can in turn guide us. We are the needy people who need the guidance. The light is given to Imam, so Imam can guide us. So the inspiration was given with his command, so one can learn what is the book, what is the faith. How? By giving light. To whom? To those who serve. When they serve, they have this understanding of the light. They are able to identify the soul, that the Quran itself has a soul. And here I would like to talk a little bit more about it. One of the friend asked me that somebody gifted me Quran and I was told that keep it very safely and keep it at the highest place. So it is at highest place, I have not touched it. And even when I touch it, I have to do this and that, all the Sharia law to follow, do the wuzu, to wash yourself, to be able to touch the Quran. In reality, the meaning of it was that this book has a soul which we need to respect. How do we respect? Not physically to keep it at a high place. To keep it with us, to read it with respect, meaning that have the inner being of you being cleaned, so you are respecting the book. With dirty mind or dirty thoughts, unclean thoughts, impure thoughts. With impure thoughts, one cannot get to the soul of the Quran. In order for one to be able to connect to the soul of Quran, one has to purify themselves. It is through zikr ibadat, ilm amal, when we are purifying ourselves step by step, when we pick up this Quran, which has soul in it, that soul will speak to us. That soul, the light, will guide us. And that's what this verse is saying. That we have revealed to you an inspiration of our command. You did not know what is the book or faith, but we have made it a light by which we guide whom we will of our servants. If we were to follow the path of our Prophet, we become Allah's servants, and indeed you guide to a straight path. We are guided to Imam. How are we guided? Also by reading the Quran, which has a light, which has a soul, and guides us to our Imam. With firm belief, knowledge of certainty. So yes, soul, Quran has its own soul. Iman, the faith which we have, has also soul. Islam also has a soul. Everything has a soul. Now, Hazrat Isa, his title was Ruhul Allah, the soul of Allah. Does that mean, is he the only one who had the soul of Allah? No one else? Surely God has a soul and it is supreme soul, Azim Shan, Ali Shan soul, सबसे बड़ी soul. It is always changing and it is never ending. When we say that Allah has a soul too, does that mean that he depends on his soul? Because we do depend on our soul. If our soul comes out of our body, we will die. Does Allah depend on his soul? No, he does not. He is Zat-e Subhan, the divine essence. His soul, which is never ending, always changing, that part we see it in our prophets and Imam. How do we see that? It is a journey in the sense that when our prophet used to do ibadat, when he was given Isme Azam by the Imam of that time, Hazrat Abu Talib, Prophet would go to Gar Hira and sit there and do his bandagi. And after some time, Jibrail came and gave him wahi. It took him some time to be announcing his prophethood. He went through stages. What were those stages? The stages of him connecting with that supreme soul. So that soul, actually we are talking in context of all those who are able to merge with Allah, fana fillah. It is in that context. Otherwise, Allah does not depend on his soul the way we do. It is his soul. What is the name of that soul? We say it universal soul. And through universal soul, all these souls came in. So we depend on that soul. So soul of universe. Does the universe have soul? And are we being the human in this universe? Is it like we are a fish in an ocean? Surely, yes. Earth has its own soul. Heavens has its own soul. Everything has a soul. So what do we call this soul? Universal soul. Nafse kulli. And there are different names, different terms which are interchangeably used. If you were to read books, it's good to write this down so you know it is one or the same. For example, pedestal of God, kursi-e Khuda, souls of souls, ruh-e arwah, guarded tablet, loh-e mahfuz. These all terms are also used for universal soul. Everything is immersed in universal soul. We all are immersed, are within in universal soul. However, to be one with universal soul, that's a total different thing. So it's universe and we are in the universe. But to be one with universe is different. And we are talking about fana fillah. Then somebody asks, what is the relationship of soul and dream? We dream while we sleep. So what's the relationship? When we sleep, our soul does not leave completely. Let me read this verse and then we'll talk more. Chapter 39, verse 42. Chapter 39, verse 42. Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death and releases the others for a specified time. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought. अल्लाह ही रूहों को उनकी मौत के वक्त और जिनकी मौत नहीं आई उन्हें इनकी नींद के वक्त कब्ज कर लेता है। फिर जिन पर मौत का हुक्म लग चुका है उन्हें तो रोक लेता है और दूसरी को एक मुकर्रर वक्त तक के लिए छोड़ देता है। गौर करने वालों के लिए निशानियां हैं। During our sleep, there are souls which leave our body and it is replaced by fresh souls. So we are able to continue to do the work in the morning. But it does not mean that the main soul, the I, comes out of our body. It's in our body, but we are not conscious of our senses. We lose the grip on our senses. And during that time, we are able to dream, see the dreams. Now, dreams itself is a huge topic. And in this book, there's a reference to another book. Inshallah, we can study that book too. Zikr and soul. Does zikr have soul? I hope we know the answer. Yes, zikr also has soul. And that's what we said, that every zikr has its own mawkil angel, firishta. When we are doing the zikr, we are activating that angel. Meaning what? We are realizing the power of that angel, strengthening that power of the angel. Power? His soul. The particles are there, but they are not activated. Through zikr, we activate them, we bring them to life, and then it starts working for us. I recall one farman of Sultan Muhammad Shah, Nairobi 1905, Maula says, "Pachi tame pote majiza kari sakso." Then you will be able to do miracles yourself if you are able to realize and make yourself at the level of angels. Then you can also do majizat. So each zikr which we do has its own soul. And that's why when we do zikr, we have this happy feeling in our heart, content feeling in our heart. Versus when we are away from zikr and we are ignoring living in this world, what happens? The fear takes place, grabs us in our mind, in our heart, in thoughts. There is fear. This will happen, that will happen, what will happen, this will go wrong. All these things come into our being. Why? Because the zikr is not there. And of course, that would result in sadness, being unhappy. So it is up to us to continue to do zikr so we have more strong souls within us, keeping us happy, content, and to be walking on our path. Now, what is the order of the soul? How does the soul come in? When a child is conceived through sperm, that is actually vegetative soul. Sperm is a vegetative soul. It enters into mother's womb and it's there. It takes 4 months for the child's organs to be developed. And through mother, the child gets the nourishment. And at a very low level, animal soul starts entering the child. But mostly it is vegetative soul, because in mother's womb, the child is growing very fast. It is only after the birth, when the child receives mother's milk, the animal soul enters in his body and he starts feeling, and one can see the instincts, newborn. When parents and others speak to child, at that time, Ruhe Natika, the human soul, enters the child. And that is why it is a tradition when a child is born, an elder from the family would say Surah Fatiha, Nadi Ali in child's ear to introduce him, to let him have this Ruhe Natika enter his being. So Ruhe Natika, which is the speaking soul, human soul, comes later on in child's body. So first it is the lowest soul and then it continues the journey to the higher. Interestingly, somebody asked that what if one gets blood transfusion? And I hope you know, those who know, Jehovah's Witness, this group of people, they never accept blood transfusion because they think that it's taking somebody's blood, meaning that taking their soul, and it's not a right thing and their blood will become impure. So they would rather face difficult consequences, complications in surgery, but they will never accept blood transfusion. In Ismaili, what do we believe? With the true knowledge, we know when we accept the blood transfusion, it is only the vegetative and animal soul which enters our body. Nobody's thoughts or impurities can enter in our being because that we now know only can come through Ruhe Natika. Meaning when we converse with wrong people, when a wrong soul enters from our ears to our mind and our heart, then we have problems. Impurities enter. Not through the blood transfusion. Now, these are the terms which we really need to learn. And I hope those who are truly interested to learn are writing this down. These are very important terms. So I noted down whatever the terms which were new. So let's talk about it briefly. Human being, the best creation of Allah. Personal world. Personal world, Alam-e-Shaksi. Our inner world, the universe within us. It is the realization of the personal world that we are not a small being. All this knowledge, ilm o amal, ibadatu zikr, helps in recognition of our personal world. Man arfa nafsahi faqad arfa rabbihi. The one who recognizes his own soul will recognize the God's soul. जिसने अपने आप को पहचाना उसने अपने रब को पहचाना. अपने आप को पहचाना is actually to recognize, to realize your own personal world. Imam of the time, Hadi-e-Zaman, the guide of our time, Hadi-e-Zaman. Pre-eternity, Azal, pre-eternity. And there's another term, post-eternity. But I hope we now know that it is not in terms of linear line. Time नहीं है. हम circle में चलते हैं. Cycles हैं. Pre-eternity and post-eternity. Then the term light. I hope today we understood that Noor is not limited to very tiny thing. Today when we are talking about this knowledge, there is transference of soul, light, through Ruh Natika. So light is a very huge concept. We talked about precursor. Thank you for making sure that the spelling is correct. Precursor, Sabik and Lahik, successor. Precursor is the Imam who has given the Amr to the upcoming Imam, the successor, the Lahik Imam. We talked about universal soul, Nafse Kulli. And the other terms, which also represents universal soul, pedestal of God, Khuda Kursi-e-Khuda, souls of souls, Ruh-e-Arwah, guarded tablet, Loh-e-Mahfuz, speaking soul, Ruh-e-Natika. Then we talked about Nafs-e-Ammara, the carnal soul, Nafs-e-Lawama, the censoring soul, Nafs-e-Mutmainna, the satisfied soul. Nafs-e-Ammara is mentioned in 12/53, Nafs-e-Lawama 75/2, Nafs-e-Mutmainna, the satisfied soul 89/27. Ruh-e-Haywani, animal soul, and Ruh-e-Insani, human soul. Because we will continue to learn this, so we need to have this written down so we are able to understand it, refer it to. Alhamdulillah, I will end here. If any friends have any questions, please come forward.
मेरा एक क्वेश्चन खाली मिस हो गया है. I mean आपने समझा दिया है, but मुझसे मिस हो गया. What is the mineral soul?
Mineral soul रूह है नबाती, जैसे पत्थर में होती है, right? रूह है नबाती. मलाली मदद.
I have a question. Like, in babies, they don't have the rational soul. So, how do, when the babies are in the womb and we say that we recite Gina, so they do hear, or they do recognize mom's voice. So, how does that logic...
So, remember with Ruh and Natika, meaning that at a minute level, when the mother is listening, through the navel the child is listening too, and science is now proving it more and more, that the soul does enter through mother's navel too, because mother is listening and it is in her system and the child is listening too. In fact, now we know that the learning can take place too. But when we talk of in terms of souls itself, when does the soul enter? It is at the time when the child is born and we are talking. At that time, the human soul, the rational soul enters. Remember, human soul is the one which gives the power of speech and discernment, meaning ability to distinguish from right to wrong. Babies don't have that. But that does not mean they don't have ears and they are not listening.
Baima, I have a question.
Okay.
When the soul enter, in the baby, when they are in mom's womb.
I didn't get your question. Say it again.
Okay, you say the baby don't have soul, right?
No, they do. They do.
When they have the soul, it's big from the beginning?
Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay.
When the father is able to give sperm, when it enters the mother's womb, it is a soul. But it is a vegetative soul.
What that mean?
Okay. Vegetative soul जो होती है वो प्लांट्स की सोल होती है, जिसका मकसद होता है उगना, उगती है, वो ग्रो होती है. तो जब बाप की तरफ से स्पर्म मिलता है माँ के वूम में, तो बच्चा बड़ा होता है. बड़ा होता है. नॉट नेसेसरली उसके अंदर इंसान की सोल है. ये कंफ्यूजन होता है कि इसलिए ये हम डिटेल में स्टडी इसीलिए कर रहे हैं कि सोल्स में भी दर्जात हैं, रूह में भी दर्जात हैं. तो बच्चे के अंदर जो रूह दाखिल होती है बाप के जरिए से पहली दफा, वो भी रूह ही होती है, लेकिन वो वेजिटेटिव सोल होती है जो उगती है. उगती है मतलब क्या? बच्चा बड़ा होता है उससे. ठीक है. फिर 4 महीने के बाद जो है बच्चे के अंदर हैवानी सोल आती है, जमात आती. इसके बाद रूह हैवानी. 4 महीने बाद उसके अंदर रूह हैवानी दाखिल होती है माँ के जरिए से, एंड देन फिर बच्चा हिलना जुलना शुरू करता है. इससे पहले बच्चा हिलता नहीं है, सिर्फ बड़ा होता है, वो ग्रो कर रहा होता है. इंसान की सोल बच्चे के अंदर जब वो पैदा हो जाता है, कान के जरिए से जब बातें सुनता है, वो एक ही दफा में सुनने से नहीं आ जाती है. सुनते 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 वक्त लगता है. کیونکہ انسان کی جو روح ہے وہ یہ سکھاتی ہے کہ اچھے اور برے میں فرق. ریشنل سول ہے نا، وہ فیصلہ کر سکتی ہے، تو وہ فرق بتاتی ہے. تو بچہ ہوتا ہے، جو بچہ تھوڑا سا بھی 1-2 سال کا ہوتا ہے، وہ اتنا فرق نہیں کر سکتا ہے. وہ موسٹلی اینیمل سولز ہی ہوتی ہے. بھوک لگی ہے، کھانا کھانا ہے، نیند آئی ہے، سو گئے، جہاں بھی ہے سو گئے. جیسی جو سچویشن ہے، جیسی فیلنگز ہے، ایسا اس کو بیہیو کرنا ہے. کچھ بچہ ایکچولی 10 سال کا ہوتا ہے تب جا کے وہ پوری مکمل طور پہ یہ کر سکتا ہے کہ یہ صحیح ہے اور یہ غلط ہے. تو وہ درجہ بر درجہ آتی ہے.
اوکے آئی گاٹ اٹ. اوکے، اور دوسرا کوشچن یہ ہے کہ آپ نے بتایا کہ جو سول ہے وہ برین میں، مطلب برین کے اوپر ہیڈ پہ ہوتا ہے، رائٹ؟ تو کنیکشن ہارٹ کا اور برین کا کس طرح سے ہے؟
Good question. I'm so glad you asked that question because yes, thank you. ہم کہتے ہیں کہ ہارٹ از دا پلیس ویئر امام وانٹس ٹو لیو. اگر ہارٹ از دی سینٹر آف اینیمل سول تو امام کیسے رہیں گے؟ سو ویری گڈ کوشچن. ہوتا یہ ہے کہ جب ہم سینٹر کی جب بات کرتے ہیں، اس کا فوکس، اس کا سینٹر اس سول کا کہاں پر ہے؟ روح حیوانی کا سینٹر جو ہے وہ دل ہے. دل کے اندر خیال، جذبہ آیا، فیلنگ آئی، غصے کی فیلنگ آئی، ڈانٹ دیا یا ریئیکٹ کر لیا، غصہ کر لیا. جو انسان سینٹر ہے وہ سیریبرم ہے، جو فرنٹ کا برین ہے، یہ پارٹ ہے، اس کے اندر انسان کی سول آتی ہے. لیکن پھر ہم یہ کیسے کہتے ہیں کہ دل میں خدا آئے گا یا دل میں امام آئیں گے؟ کیا کنیکشن ہے اس کا؟ اس کا کنیکشن یہ ہے کہ جب ایک مومن سالک، وہ مومن جو مستجیب بن گیا، اسٹوڈنٹ بن گیا اور وہ علم میں آگے بڑھنا شروع ہوا، وہ آہستہ آہستہ اپنے دل کو، روح حیوانی کو باہر نکال دیتا ہے. وہ اپنے دل کو یعنی اپنی فیلنگز کو اپنے ریشنل سول سے کنٹرول کرتا ہے. کوئی بھی ایموشن، مومن کو کیا کہتے ہیں؟ مومن مولا فرماتے ہیں کہ ہمیشہ مستانہ ہوتا ہے، ہمیشہ روحانی خوشی میں ہوتا ہے. وہ کس طرح سے؟ کیا مومن کا دل نہیں ہے؟ کیا مومن کو فیلنگز نہیں آتی ہے؟ لیکن آتی ہے. لیکن اس نے کیا کیا ہے؟ وہ مومن جو مستجیب، جو مومن سالک ہے، اس نے اپنے ریشنل سول سے، اپنے دل کے اندر سے روح حیوانی کو پورا نکال دیا ہے. تو یہ کنیکشن ہے. Anybody else has? Molari Madad?
I have a question.
Sure.
Yari Madad.
Laila?
Very good presentation. Ji. I was thinking کہ اتنی detail we are thinking about ruh, all this analyzation of different forms of ruh and anything. How is it connected with our ruh, spiritual growth? I understand that you said something about this to the previous question, that we can separate our feelings from rational ruh, but I'm not sure how is it going to help. I was thinking ruh means جو وائز میں سنتے تھے کہ روح جو ہے بندگی میں اوپر جاتی ہے، مولا سے ملاقات ہوتی ہے اور یہ سب کچھ. تو I'm not able to connect these two things.
Very good question. Very good question. ہم کیوں پڑھ رہے ہیں یہ سب؟ وائی ڈو وی نیڈ ٹو لرن دس؟ سمپل، سیدھا سیدھا بندگی کریں، عبادت کریں، جماعت خانے جائیں، دعا پڑھیں، اللہ اللہ خیر صلاح. رائٹ؟ مولا کا فرمان ہے. یس، آئی انڈرسٹینڈ واٹ یو سیئنگ. مولا کا فرمان ہے جماعت خانے جانا، دعا پڑھنا تو آسان کام ہے. علم والی روح درجہ بدرجہ اوپر چڑھتی ہے. تو دوز فرینڈس who want to elevate themselves، اگر آگے بڑھنا ہے تو علم میں اترنا ہوگا، سمجھنا ہوگا. سوال یہ ہوتا ہے کیوں، کتنا ضروری ہے، کیا فائدہ اس سے ہوگا مجھے؟ اس سے مجھے یہ فائدہ ہوگا کہ مجھے یہ ریئلائزیشن ہوگا، یہ سمجھ آئے گی کہ واو، کیا طریقے سے خدا نے پورا روح کا، نور کا پورا پھیلایا ہوا ہے. کتنی عجیب بات ہے کہ قرآن جو ہم اٹھاتے ہیں کتاب، اس میں بھی روح ہے. جس کائنات میں ہم رہتے ہیں اس کی بھی روح ہے. جو پہاڑ، سمندر ہم دیکھتے ہیں اس میں بھی روح ہے. ये तमाम बातें देख के सुन के मेरे अंदर एक ही चीज आती है, मौला का इश्क। उसने क्या दुनिया रचाई है, रूहों का समंदर फैलाया है। अगर बातनी आँख खुल जाए, बातनी कान खुल जाए, तो उन तमाम रूहों से बातें करें, मौला की तारीफ करें और इश्क में नहाएं धोएं, झूमे गाएं नाचे। ये पर्पस है इल्म में आगे उतरने का। और इसीलिए ये हमारी चाहत होनी चाहिए कि हम इल्म में उतरें ताकि हम इसको सीख सकें। और ये इसीलिए फ्री विल का सौदा है, ये जबरदस्ती का सौदा नहीं है। नाचिस की एक ख्वाहिश होती है कि बहुत सारे ऐसे दोस्त हैं जो कहेंगे कि भाई मुझे मुश्किल होती है, ये किताब मैंने पढ़ी समझ नहीं आई, या लैंग्वेज की लिमिटेशन है, तो मैं ये चाहती हूँ, मेरी ये ख्वाहिश है, नाचिस ख्वाहिश है, मौला की मर्जी है कि चीज़ों को इतना आसान करके बताया जाए दोस्तों को कि किसी को ये ना लगे कि ये मुश्किल है और हमें समझ में नहीं आ रहा है। ये समझ में आ रहा है, समझना है, उससे ये गौर करना है कि मेरे खुदाया तूने कितनी मेहनत की है मेरे लिए। एक इंसान की अकल को परवान चढ़ाने के लिए, उसको समझाने के लिए, उसको ये बताने के लिए कि देखो मैं तुमसे कितनी मोहब्बत करता हूँ, पूरी दुनिया का खेल रचा है। जमात खाने जाना, इबादत करना, दुआ पढ़ना आसान है, उसको पहचानना मुश्किल है। ये तमाम जो मेहनत है उसको पहचानने के लिए की जा रही है।
ओके, थैंक यू, समझ में आई बात, में उतर रही दिमाग में। थैंक यू सो मच।
शुक्र मौला, शुक्र मौला।
I just wanted to ask something, and that is, you said that there is 3 kinds of nafs, which is the nafs amara, lawama, and muttamina. So the imam is responsible in the sense of nafs muttamina. Does every individual, or specifically an Ismaili murid, have nafs muttamina?
We would like to get there. Imam is the perfect man. Yes, I understand your question. So nafs mutmaina is the nafs of Imam, who is completely satisfied, completely content, no issues. A journey is always started from nafs ammara, instinctual nafs. A moment travels to go to nafs lawama. If one continues the journey to go further and becomes one with Imam, and we have example, Pir Sadruddin, Pir Shams, Salman Farsi, they all were able to merge with Imam, meaning they did get to nafs mutmainna.
So the question becomes that is it somewhat dormant in ourselves, the nafs mutmainna, or rather do we have to it becomes activated by ibadat?
I would use the word activated because it can never be dormant. Imam is always there. He's always guiding. So it's very active. It's our realization which is not connected to it. And when we start our journey through Zikr Ibadat and Ilmu Amal, we are working towards that direction to activate, to open up our Batni eyes step by step, connected to stay always at Nafse Lawama, the conscious soul, the censoring soul, and continue to go ahead with the journey and get to the Nafse Mutmainna. Normally, generally what happens, if a moment starts the journey, they get there, but it's like always back and forth. And Imam Sultan Ahmad Shah has very beautifully said it actually. He says in his Farman that if you were to walk 1 step ahead and go back 3 steps, when will you reach where you are supposed to reach? So what happens, we keep back and forth. It's not that we cannot get to Nafse Lawama. We do get there easily because Imam is so merciful. But it's the journey from Nafse Lawama to going to Mutmainna or to go backward to Nafse Ammara. As soon as one loses the temper, guess what? We dropped our levels to Nafse Ammara.
Yeah, that's okay. The reason I'm asking you there is because Hazri Imam tells us that my beloved spiritual children. So in that space, specific thing which says spiritual children. So you have the spirit of the Imam in his children. So, and that's the reason for my question is that we do, all of us have the spirit of the Imam in us, except that maybe you will not say, okay, you may not term it as dormant, and I may term it as dormant. You are right in that, in reaching to that one. So my thing is that I think we also have all the three nafs in us. And especially that when you said that, you know, I agree with you in the where the locations are, because the peers have said in Bammar Gufa where the location is. So I agree with you there. But what my question was, because the Imam always mentions us as spiritual children. So we have that nafs-e mutma'inna with us, always present because of his spirituality.
So what you are saying, in other words, Kareem, that we have the potential to become one with nafs-e mutma'inna. And I agree with you absolutely. We all have potential because we are the beloved spiritual children of Imam. It is the
But
actual.
What I'm also saying is that we do have that nafs in us.
Yes, we do. We do have potential.
As soon as we become sort of Ismailis, then we do have. Now the second question is when you were, sorry to take up your time, when you were talking about Surah 42, Ayat 52 in the Holy Quran, where you said that the Quran itself is as a light. Correct?
Yes.
So then the Sunnis are right.
Okay.
They say to us, right, that you are telling us, or the Shias are saying that the Imam is the light, and we always have said that the light reference is the Imam. But here you are bringing in the book as the light. I'm not saying that the book is not the light, but the thing is that the book itself cannot be a light unless there is what the Shias have said, that there is a person, as Imam Ali said, that I am the Natikul Quran.
True, very true.
My question is very simple. When you try and juggle these things up, it sort of creates a little bit of a problem. Because you see, then you say, well, you know, the Sunnis are right. So what's going on here?
So what's going on here, Kareem, is that limited knowledge is always a problem. So we have just studied one verse of the Quran, and we cannot conclude the Islam religion on just one verse. I would give you chapter 5, verse 15, where Allah talks about Nur and the book. Light and the book. Now what is the light and the book? So light is Imam. So Allah has actually spoken about Imam in Quran in allegorical ways, and He has kept this knowledge with Rasikhun fil ilm. And the difference is that when we have Quran, one cannot study Quran without Imam. One cannot understand the ta'wil of Quran without Imam. It is Imam's light which gives the understanding of the deeper meaning given in the Quran. Imam is the only one who can give us Ism-e Azam, the supreme name of Allah. It is the key to the Quran. It is only through the light of the Imam that we can understand the Quran. People can read, become Hafiz-e-Quran, but they are never going to reach to that light. For the argument's sake, they can bring any verses, many verses. that does not make a difference. One verse cannot change the iman, the basis of our tariqah. Do not look at one verse and see it as a main focus. It is incomplete knowledge which will lead anyone to the problem. My answer to Kareem is only one. Do not limit learning to one verse. There are hundreds of other verses. For argument's sake, one can do unending argumentative talk. There will be no end. But if it's truly for the purpose of learning, there is answer to it and there is end to it. I will stop here. Thank you so much, friends. Yali Madad. Yali Madad. Yali Madad. Yali Madad.